Powered by Dr. Podcast, your audio factory, turning ideas into a signature sound.
In a very nice, sunny end of October day in Brooklyn, I had the privilege to have in front of me Maestro Weiwei, and he is in New York, which from 1981 to 1993 has been his hometown in a way. And now there are 3 exhibition places in New York, 2 at the Vito Schnabel Gallery, one in 19th Street and also in his house, 11th Street. And the title of the show is Child's Play. Instead, now we are in Brooklyn at the Faurschou New York Gallery, where his show is titled What You See is What You See, right? So you have 3 exhibitions in the same time or in this city who has been very important in your life, no?
Yeah, it's during my 24 to 36, it's a whole full circle of a zodiac, 12 years. That's probably the most important period of time.
But that's where reading the Andy Warhol philosophy, I mean, you got in touch also with 2 very important artists. One was Duchamp and the other one was Jasper Jones, if I am not wrong, who somehow, I don't know, tell me, they had some influence in your upbringing, in your artistic...
Yes, I think I'm pretty fortunate. Come from a communist society right after Cultural Revolution. My life was, you couldn't imagine how it was. My father was 20 years exile by growing up.
Your father, who was the most important Chinese poet, right?
Yes, he is the most important one. But he was exiled. He was almost forbidden to writing for over 30, 40 years, which is very, very cruel to forbidding a writer to write, but to go through this kind of re-education form. So even he comes back from Paris and, he loves art. That's why I did the Water Lily. It's really trying to memory.
The Water Lily d'après Monet, no?
Yes. On the Water Lily, you can see a black hole there.
How was your childhood in such conditions? I mean, you had siblings, you were a family.
We have been pushed away from Beijing to most remote area. My family, just like any refugees today, you're seeing somewhere tents, but very much worsened situation because it is punished and refugees not necessarily punished when they're refugee, but he is insulted, and that's my childhood.
You wrote a beautiful small book. I mean, small in terms of aesthetically small, but very deep and important, called Humanity, that was published by the Princeton University Press, where you examine with your own words and small sentences many of these things like borders, power, and you insist on displacement. And since you had this childhood, displaced childhood, I mean, you are very, very close to the displaced people of the world, which are many, right? And it's a big thing for you. And if I am not wrong, the word that you like the best is action.
Yes.
And your life is action vis-a-vis the displacement. Am I wrong?
No, you're absolutely right. Growing up in such a condition, it becomes a lifetime duty and obligation to speak for the people who lost their voice or who never have a voice. And as an artist, I'm very privileged to give my expressions, and those has to be in relate to my personal life.
How did you decide that you were an artist? Because to be the son of a very important poet. It must be a difficult heritage in a way, proud but difficult for a child. How did you decide that you would be an artist, and what did you do at the beginning?
I never decide till today. Really, I was born as an artist. I guess everybody may become an artist, but when you're growing up, those chances just not there. Even with me, of course, my father would never wish me to become an artist or writer, because that only means this is a very dangerous position. And millions of people being punished when they have individual expressions.
We talk about China now.
China, but still today in the world, even in the West, if you want to truly be individual, I think you also could get into problems. So the whole education is trying to teach people behaving, be safe, be a good boy.
You started by painting, the classic painting, and then slowly you use many different artistic techniques, including films and sculpture and porcelain, and you use a lot of material like porcelain, wood, metal, over the years. How did you move from one thing to the other?
It's my instinct or my character of a so-called being artist. That means I have free choice and I can be subversive. So I have to do things against myself. I have to do things I am not familiar with, but I feel it's a challenge. So that's why all my works is quite surprising when it comes out, even to me, a complete fresh. So that gave me a reason why I'm still doing it. Otherwise, why should I do it?
Your main studio, and this appears in a beautiful painting, which is part of the Child's Play exhibition. There is your new studio that you designed in Portugal. But in images of the past, you had also a studio in China. You probably had a studio in New York. How did you move from one place to the other?
I never had home, even in China, because as a punished one, you don't have home. Or as Marx once said, the poor people, the working class, they don't have a nation. They're just like us, my father, are being punished at so-called home. So I'm a traveler. So each place I would have a location I can literally relate to. That's why I built my studio in Portugal. It's like end of the world or end of Europe. And that studio is exactly the same shape as the studio I built in Shanghai, which was torn down right after it's been built. So I thought that maybe now I have a piece of land, I rebuild it, but I don't repeat it. So I will use different kind of method. Instead to use concrete brick, I use the Chinese temple structure, which means the whole building are made of wood and with special skills and the structure like a furniture making. So there's no single nails in this huge complex.
In these exhibitions in New York and Brooklyn, you show mainly works done with many years ago. You started, I think, with Alcatraz, a famous prison place. No, you did a show at the beginning called Trace in 2014 using Lego or Woma. Woma is the Chinese Lego, is the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you decide to use this childish, not so childish because it's very difficult to do. You decided to do this big paintings and very meaningful paintings with Lego or Woma. How did it come into your mind?
Lego or Woma probably is the first thing you can use from the so-called artistic point of view, because it's ready-made and it's plastic and it's being seen as some easy and cheap and sin. The art always being looked at as something precious and uniqueness. But I love the quality of Lego, which is only about 40 colors. And it's a challenge to use the 40 colors to make a very profound or complicated color structure. So it's like a game.
How do you do it? You drawing the painting first?
First, just like artist, but without brush in your hands. So you decide every inch or every millimeter what precisely the color break will be, and then you give it the composition, contrast, everything. It's just digital. It's new language. All those pixels are precisely designed, located. Then you can send to anybody who can make it according to the design. So many of my works I never touched because I finished the design. Design is so clear because it's digital, precise. And also this technique is not new from Roman time or even earlier Greek time. You have a mosaic, which is exactly the same. But now, of course, you have much better.
That's a kind of modern mosaic in a way.
It's a modern mosaic.
And in these exhibitions, the ones who are now in New York, I can see 2 or 3 different things.
Approach.
In the sense that some of your works are very important painters all over the centuries did the same. They are homage to other artists, from Monet and the Nymphaeas to Balthus to Warhol to others, Tiziano, even Leonardo da Vinci. Leonardo da Vinci, that is d'après Warhol, so it's like a fil rouge. This is one side of the work that we can see in the Vito Schnabel Gallery, but also here there is a very significant painting, black and white painting called The End, inspired instead by a film by Charlie Chaplin, The Great Dictator. And then there are self-portraits, which is another, from Rembrandt to all the big Picasso, the self-portrait is part of the artist's
Thank you for being so observing. And yes, you, as artists, you have to deal with different things. You have subject matter, concept, and skills to structure it, and the presentation. So the language has been carefully chosen. The artworks in somehow relating to my personal understanding of what happened in the past. Of course, there's a lot of things happened, but certain things I may have feelings to say it's interesting to play with. And also another type of work in relating to myself, like self-portrait. But I see myself just as a Cezanne, say, an apple or orange, or or Van Gogh to say a pair of shoes, or his own portraits. He did many portraits, or Rembrandt did so many portraits. I think it's just you only borrow something which to extend your practice. And as Jasper John once said, you never change subjects, you only change the interpretation. So my Lego work is a completely new interpretation. No one challenges me, and there's no competition. I feel so good about I can use that in every direction.
There is a beautiful painting here. So it reminds me, a painting, the shape of the painting reminds me of a painting by Ribera, who is in the Prado in Madrid, which is a fantastic painting of, I think it's Saint Jacob sleeping. And here there is a beautiful portrait of you. It's your body on a beach, lying on a beach. It's not so clear that it's you, but it's probably you with the sea. This is a very special self-portrait. I don't know if you are particularly attached to that painting or not.
It's a gesture I did on Lesbos when I was filming the refugees rushed into a Greek island, and from
was it Kos, the island?
Yeah, it's called Lesbos. The female poet's name after her name. They come from Turkey. I was on the shore, kind of desperate to see those people. They're just like a rock come from outer space, landed there. They don't speak same language. They don't have the same religion. They don't look, even facial expression are completely different from our society or the West. And the women, children crying, climb out of this dinghy boat. And, many of them just dead because the ocean could be violent sometimes. So Alain Elkann is a little boy, was on the shore. I didn't see his body, but his image was widely presented. I don't even know. People told me later. I was busy in filming and trying to get the real information out. Then a journalist said, we want to do a cover story of you are doing this. Can you do the gesture? I said, yeah, of course I can do the gesture. I know what it means. But that image generates such predictable criticism to say, oh, this artist is using this, is how badly, how cheap he's doing. I don't see things that way. First, life and death is related. And the death of children, we see it every day. Don't pretend that's just one single case. His brother just 50 meters away on the shore.
This is very much deep into you, the dispersion.
It is. It could be me.
You are a Chinese man. You spend most of your life or a lot of your life in the Western world. But how did you cope with it? Because you are the son of a very important Chinese voice, because the voice of a poet is something very important since ever. And in the same time, because of circumstances, you had to move around the world, or because of you, I don't know. But anyway, how do you perceive yourself? How much of Chinese there is in you, because China has a very long history, a very important background, and in the same time, the Western world. And today, we are in America, and it looks like America and China are the two big powers, one in front of the other. You are like a bridge. How do you feel?
I think I more function as a bridge, but a self-destruction bridge. People say, oh, you're always trying to find who you are, but I'm always confused and trying to find out who I am not. I think only by finding out who I'm not. Maybe
what you're not.
I'm not belong to anywhere or belong to any group. And I'm still trying to find out what is left as a human and as an individual. I still have to always come back to the very essential question. And the other sense doesn't matter, not at all.
And do you think you express yourself more with your films, because you did many films in your life? You find the actual painting more like a strong symbol, one thing symbolic?
I see life is like a leaf from the tree landed in the river. You're floating. You change your position, and the views of the shore are constantly changing, but you cannot really. It's a fate. It's not something you can design it. People think they can design it. It's a misunderstanding.
Water is important in your work. You made also this painting with waves. The water, but the trees are also something very important in your work, right?
Maybe that part, I am a Chinese, but Chinese always, the poetry, literature, everything, the sentiment is always related to nature. It's like a primitive type of sensitivities, water, trees, plants, animals. So we always think we're part of it. Fortunately, we're part of it. But very often we forget. Maybe also that's fortunate. I don't know.
But you always think that we are not the only one on this earth, right? That we share the time and the earth with other things, like trees, like animals. No, that's a little bit what you think, right? That we're not the only masters of this world.
I think the position of a human are being too exaggerated, too much self-indulgent, I would say. And seemingly we think we can dominate everything, but that is so ridiculous. Even the plant in the universe is just a dust. And we are so fortunate, but At the same time, we kill each other, we lie to each other, and we did all those nonsense.
We do it all the time.
All the time.
We're in the middle of it.
The human history is like that. We are in the middle of it. If we are not stupid enough, finish ourselves, human species, by doing that.
When you were in prison, unjustly in prison in China, and then you couldn't go out later when you were free, but not free because you couldn't travel, how did you feel? You feel in prison, you feel it was terrible for an artist.
Sorry, it's not so terrible. Prison is one kind of human condition. 2-3 days later, I'm going to visit an inmate who is in death row for 20 years, over 20 years, still waiting for the calling. And it's going to be in south of United States. I will not mention too specifically. He become a poet, a good writer, a good artist, and he really want to see me. I said, why not? So I take this occasion of exhibition to come to the United States and go to visit him.
You couldn't write, you couldn't paint, you couldn't do anything. This is the same that your father, somehow you went for a short time, but through the similar experience.
It's true, but it's a human condition.
And how is it when you cannot express, because after all your life is expressing, right?
Yeah, but still, they hold you by this kind of military police. They are 19, 20 years old. They have curiosity. They look at you without blinking their eyes, very still, very like in the very well-dressed military uniforms. And I have to sitting in front of them very still. I cannot scratch my head or do anything, just sitting there, look at them, they look at me. But they are human beings. So if I change position, they are also the true prisoners. Later, we had built up a secret way to talk without moving our mouths because there's cameras everywhere. They call me old man. They don't know my name. They said,
did you who you were?
Later, after communication, they think this guy must be important because they're only dealing very like top important state prisoner in secret location. They don't know who they are. After they get into army, they were in sealed van, moved to here for 2 or 3 years, then will be moved out without know where they are. So they said, you may be out after a while, but our life is also in prison.
You were frightened sometimes?
I'm only worried once. When the interrogator said, listen, you may be sentenced for certain years. After certain years, when you come out of the jail, your son will never recognize you. At that time, he was only 2 years old, right? That hit me very badly. If I was sentenced, this year I will come out. Certainly, my son is already 16, and he will never recognize me.
This was a wound for you.
That's heavy.
What did you answer something?
No, I can't answer it because it's so heavy. When something getting so heavy, you cannot even communicate with anyone.
In art, you experimented many things. Here in Faurschou, there is an example of porcelain. No, you know, all these casks made in porcelain, but you made also very traditional vases in porcelain because somehow you're also an artisan, or you also like the craftsmanship, or your work, I don't know, seems to be so precise and well done in each single detail. I mean, you give a lot of importance to that.
Thank you. I'm very privileged being as a Chinese, have such a long tradition in porcelain making, furniture making, even silk and weaving, and I can say I'm expert on those things because I draw about. I was questioning why they have to do this piece of jade. It'll take them years before iron time or bronze time. What makes them to do that? It's still very fascinating. I'm a collector.
Why do you collect buttons?
The short story is someone on Twitter said we have a huge amount of buttons, so we have to land for it. The factory is going to close. So we realized, I said, oh, no, what a waste. Then we started a conversation. Then finally, they know who I am. They said, they all see my sunflower seeds. So they want to sell to me. I said, okay. I bought it, but very often when I do it, I don't know why. Very often, because the difference between me and most of people is people have so rational and so logical. As artists, I'm not so rational and logical. I just think that must have some use. Then later, I found out two things are very interesting. My things relate to button is from a little story when we lived in the Xinjiang, where my father was exiled. We're living there under this house. You couldn't even call it house, a hole underground. And my brother went to another province, see his cousin. When the train started to move, his cousin see him out from the station, then running up the train and then reached out hand, from the window, give him something. So he catch it, he open his hands, the train, of course, take off. They have to ride this train for 72 hours to my location. Then it's a few buttons. In that time, in China, it's very hard to find a few buttons. If we lose our buttons, we lose it forever, and we couldn't even buy one. There's no shop and no anything. So when we have something, we always make special stitches to make it solid, in case they lose, you can.
So the button has a very deep meaning for you, right?
It has some meaning.
Rare and precious. Where do you put your buttons? You have a collection.
But those meaning come out later. Why decide to have it? I think it's a good idea. But later I found out, when I was in detention all day, I was looking at the uniforms of those military police buttons. It's very specially designed as like a Russian style. How do I use it? Of course, this is over 30 tons of buttons. It's just like sunflower seeds. It can cover the whole street with buttons. But I'm not going to use that way. Buttons only as buttons. That means it's a stitch to a fabric.
You keep them
in warehouse.
The warehouse.
I spend a lot of money just for
buttons.
Yeah, for any, I have a lot of large works.
Can you still buy them everywhere?
No. It was a mistake, but beautiful mistake. I bought it. But now I know how to use it because I'm going to use it in Manchester, the first industrial revolution.
I know you will have a huge exhibition in Manchester.
Yes, that I can use that with fabric. So we already make it, it will take years to accomplish the project.
You used also sunflowers. I mean, you had a huge exhibition. I think it was at the Tate Modern Gallery in London a few years ago. I mean, you had seeds of sunflowers.
Sunflower seeds.
But you made them.
Oh, yes.
The fake sunflowers.
Yes. Seeds. Every single of them are crafted and hand-painted and fired. It just makes that is very much like make highest quality porcelain. You have to go through 20 procedure stages.
How many seeds is it?
It's only 100 million, 1/10 of a Chinese population, but it's like an ocean.
Incredible. I mean, why do you like cats so much?
I like cats for...
Do you have many?
Also, I was on internet early time in China. There's a little movement about animal protection. And one day we received a call from, the young people said, oh, we need your help. I said, what? They said, we found a truck full of cats, and it's going to be delivered to another province. And they're going to use it for restaurant cooking. I said, oh my God, this is shocking. So I rushed into that because they stopped the vehicle, the truck, for the highway of pay toll, right? A group of activists. So we got those cats, over 400 of the cats. They are so scared. They're so beautiful, but they're terribly scared. And the human would put 20 of them in every stage. They are squeezed together. Maybe for days, they cannot even have the water or something. So the final, since we all have to take care of some, so I took 40 of them. I said, I want to handle 1/10 of this 400. So I have a studio, have space, and we have people who love the animals. So I get to know those animals. They're individuals. They all have strong characters. If we do this kind of interview, one white cat, Lai Lai, his name is always jump there, listen to this whole video, interview. A lot of foreign journalists interview me. He will just, every time he will be there. I think he is somehow, it must be a spy from secret police. Yeah, never miss one interview.
But you have a special relationship with cats because they are difficult animals.
I think, I like them. They're never being too close to you.
They're not predictable.
No, they're not. They're very independent and they're pretty clean. I also like that.
They are clean.
Yeah, I don't have to walk them. They clean themselves.
But you travel with your cats? I mean, in Portugal,
we
have cats in Portugal now?
In every location, we have cats. Yeah.
And how many you have?
In Portugal, we had 2 homeless cats. Then one just gave a baby to 8.
How much time you spend in Portugal?
I can spend my whole life, but also I don't have to spend a day because I don't attach to anything. My privilege is if you tell me to go tomorrow to an unknown place, I also can settle there.
How can you work? I mean, you make such big paintings or big installs.
First, to work that way is not necessary. You can work by cooking, by clean dishes, by doing anything, and they can plan growing a tree, or, there's a million ways to work. So
but you don't have a routine or habits?
No. If you come to my studio, you will not see a single artwork hanging in my studio on the wall. I don't like to see my works.
You don't like to see?
No, it's okay to be in other locations like a gallery or museums for public to view it. My relation with my work is to do it and forget about it immediately, right after I finish.
But why did you decide to do the end or to reproduce a Tiziano painting or to do a sculpture or to do a film? How does it come into your...
I don't have a regular job. I don't have a regular routine or discipline. I wake up in middle of night in airport or in some hotels. Then some strange ideas come
And what do? You take notes? You have a notebook?
I don't have the habit. When I was young, I do that. I would really love to write down the important notes, but now you have an iPhone, which is
but are you drawing sometimes?
I used to draw the most. Produce so much, I have to stop it because I know I will become a Van Gogh, It will drive me crazy, right? I mean, when I'm not there, my mom never recognized my art. He throw away or give to friends who appreciate it. So, I don't have early works.
But artists nowadays, especially when they do big installations, they have many assistants or you have many people working with you or...
I can work by myself. I'm a very handy person. And also can have the whole world working for me. It's about the working is a way of communication. It's a way of how those works are giving birth to those works are meaningful. Or I said, to giving the birth to something, you also need a male and a female or some kind of new technology, but you cannot just do it by yourself. Maybe very soon we can give a birth just by ourselves.
Why do they say that Duchamp was so important for you? Are you thinking about this old master, all these artists, or you just yourself?
I am more just myself, but certain artists interest me like Duchamp or even Jasper Johns or Andy Warhol. They found their own language and their perspective are pretty shocking. They opened the possibilities.
And you are one of them?
Of course, I belong to the family, and I'm proud of it. And of course, I never dreamed I can be one of them.
No,
Yeah.
But you said that part of the family.
Yes, definitely.
So you're not.
That makes me feel
So
a bit.
at the end of the day, what is to be an artist? You don't even know because
I don't really know. I think you have to have a very critical mind and a very sharp and clear vision, and you have to understand the humanity.
You say you are displaced, but maybe all the artists are displaced, right? I mean, you're not so displaced because you belong to the family of these people. But they say that you also love to write.
Yes, that's my ultimate. I adore the people who can write. I think that's the most important gift.
And do you write a lot?
I never had a chance to. I finished my book, 1,000 Years of Joys and Sorrows, which took me 10 years to do this book. I could never imagine, But I'm still writing a few books, but I don't know how long.
But I mean, your book, Humanity, is a kind of philosophy of life.
Yeah, it's very much like Andy Warhol's philosophy book, or early Greek philosophers. They also do those things. Or Confucius. They don't write a book, but they do teachings.
And you are a teacher?
I'm a bad teacher.
Bad teacher?
I teach myself.
But why your favorite word is action?
I think that's character of life. If you only thinking or talking and not to act out what you believe, I think that would be very much like a fake, like a hypocrite, So I hate hypocrites. I think you have to act out what you believe, to make some actions, not just to change the world, but it's really to change yourself, to make sure you...
How much did you change?
Daily, I change. I just tear the part of this piece of paper.
Do you think you are improving?
No, not improving, but I change positions. Maybe you can never really improving from a perspective, but you still can change positions. When you sleep, this side is not comfortable, then you move the pillow, you turn to another side till you're so tired that you fall into sleep.
You live in Portugal, but you also lived in Berlin, or you still live in Berlin. Therefore, forget my pronunciation, but you certainly are aware of this word, Weltanschauung, vision of the world. So I wanted to ask you, what is your vision of the world? At the moment, we are in Brooklyn.
I think if you look at the world, basically, after Industrial Revolution, now we call it second, third, fourth Industrial Information Age or AI age. We are moving so faster in so-called technology because that can generate a huge profit and can dominating in many ways for profit making. And I think we are badly losing the environment of humanity. I think the humanity is the fast deteriorating area, much worse than so-called environment ruin. The people fight for protect the environment, but the real environment we have to protect is humanity.
And we are killing our humanity?
We are poisoning it, not just killing. Killing maybe has easier job, but we poison it. We make a new type of a human, which is very poor condition, not have a strong soul, not to have a strong passion and belief and way to act and be yourself. No, completely destroyed by education, by mainstream, by media, by social media. It's disappearing. We will never have right old familyhood relations to parents or friends or neighborhood. We become very crude individual.
This is the way we are going to go.
This is the way.
This remedy.
Yeah, this is the way we cannot stop it. Even it's like a rock. Once it's getting loose from top of a mountain, it will start rolling, and it will cause big disasters. But very well accepted because this is capitalism. Everything is measured by one single measurement, which is so-called success. And what is success? That means you make more money. This is horrible.
You said
No. We should laughing and happily to say the end. The end.
This is the end. Which is it your last?
I think as human we would only have one end, and the end is coming.
But is the end, or the end is the beginning of something else?
It's a beginning maybe for happier other animals like plants, other lives.
Thank you very much for this conversation.
Thank you. So nice talking
to you. It was a pleasure to talk to you.
Powered by Dr. Podcast, your audio factory, turning ideas into a signature sound.